Start.
Okay, looks like someone did join. Okay. Have a good game. All right, so again, continuing from last time, we're going to follow the same basics that we used. We kind of talked about all the basics that we want, but now it's just showing more examples of how to do it. So I am black, so open corners first. So we're going to do the same stuff we've been talking about and just show more ways to do it. Again, I can do 3-3, I could do 3-4, 4-4, it doesn't matter. And then support on both sides. So I'm going to go to the fourth line and just establish my position. Right? Easy peasy. All right, he plays a side. It's not pushing in yet, so I'm going to play a side. Okay, and now we start pretty much pushing the borders. Okay, so he's not pushing mine yet, so I'm going to push his. Watch my cutting points, of course, but push his. Okay, just push. So I did explain 5-5 was best, so it's not really relevant to the basics we're talking about. But the artificial intelligence did prove it. So I can't exactly explain why. I just know that it's the best because it was proven. And I also know it leads to a lot of fighting shapes that are very nice. But not really our basics, though, that we're going to apply on the 9119. Okay, and we're just pushing the borders, fixing our shape. This one's actually going quite simple. So I guess we'll learn like a new thing. So you could just push right here and right here, but actually we can go one more. So this is a knight's move. So I don't know if sliding under is one of our first beginner shapes, but we are going to learn this move on the 13x13 pretty quickly. So maybe it's okay to play right here, but it's just we go from the third line and we're one space away from the fourth line stone. So we'd actually slide with a one space to the second line to try to steal some points. So the second line is good for stealing. So this is one of those moves. We play a knight's move from the third line to the second line to steal. And during this, we are going to read our cutting points. So here, so he's trying to cut us apart. So we're going to block and connect back. And we do have a cutting point here, but we just Atari down, and it'll be okay. The only concern is if he plays this move, it activates this cut. So if he plays this move and we fix, he actually breaks in. But we do have a response to that, and that is if he plays this move, we Atari first, and then fix the cut, and that's has nowhere to go. This one is if he pushes in, we just block, and that's a tiger's mouth. That's a shape that we know and love. Yeah. So now it's nowhere to push. We could push right here, but then we're gonna have to block. So maybe that's okay. Maybe that's okay. If we push, I guess it doesn't really matter. We haven't really learned the best order for endgames. We're just gonna keep pushing and then block. Watch our cutting points. Block. Watch our cutting points. All right, so he fixes. So we don't have to block this cutting point. We Atari this way and then Atari that way to the edge, and that's a ladder. We could also Atari from this side and go that one. But remember, with two cutting points on the same line, we have to consider if he cuts this one and we Atari, and then he cuts this one and we Atari to the edge, do they create a combination? We have two liberties, so maybe. So let's see. He cuts, I Atari, he cuts, I Atari. Let's say he runs with this one because this one has nowhere to go. So he runs with this one. 1, 2, 3 to 1, 2. But this one only has one, so these two are still safe. So I just block. He turns, I turn. Seems okay. So the same sequences still look like they work. It doesn't look like they affect each other. But you do have to check when you have multiple cutting points on the same line. Check and see if they work with each other. Check and see if your liberties fail or not. So in this case, I'm just going to, I don't know, block, I guess. I could also try to push right here. No big deal. Okay, block. Before I blocked, I should have spoke through my thought. Before I blocked, I checked my cutting point because he took a liberty. Check the cut, Atari. Check the cut, Atari. Looked okay. So I blocked, and he was an Atari, so he fixes. So now I check my cut again. I Atari. I have 2 liberties. He has 1. So it looks like I'm okay until he plays this. But this one is a mistake because when he cuts an Atari, he has 1 and I have 2. But if I play right here, then I only have 1 more. So this is one of those liberties I need to block that cut. So this would be a mistake. So I'm going to go ahead and just play it right here. So I'm watching my cutting points, watching my cutting points, watching my cutting points. And that's all it is. So if I play right here and try to force him to go here, that would be a mistake because you watch your cuts first before you check your opponent's cuts. So I'm going to go ahead and fix my cut because I can't play here until I fix it. So I'm going to fix it. And then he fixes, and then it should be good and done. All right, and I'm going to pass.
Pass.
And we played a good game. Even if we lose because of Comey or something, it's a good game. This is kind of the result we want.
Remove the dead stones.
This is the exact type of game that we want to master on the 9x9.
Game resumed.
Oh.
Remove the dead stones.
Okay, accept.
Game resumed.
Oh, he doesn't know how to accept? Okay, when he doesn't like the result, so he's going to try to invade. That's fine. But you're going to push him to the edge. Technically, this is bad manners. You're not once you pass, the game's done, according to the rules. So technically, this is bad manners, but no big deal. Don't freak out. Don't get mad. Just push him to the edge. Let him try his little fancy stuff. Let him run in his timeout. Who cares? Just don't worry about it. Sometimes it happens.
Remove the dead stones.
And just push him to the edge, and no big deal.
You have won.
All right, and then still say thank you for the game because we want to master our manners as well. So have a good game at the start. Thank you for the game at the end. So yeah, thank you for the game. And yeah, easy peasy. Easy peasy. So it looks like Black was up by 5.5 points. So yeah. Nice, simple, easy to execute game. So let's go ahead and look at the result.
Review
and see
started.
how we got there. So we did open corners first. These are our basics, and the reason these are our basics is because these are the basics we're going to apply on the 19x19, and we're working our way to the 19x19. So open corners, 3-3, 3-4, 4-4, any of them are fine. I just like the third line a lot on the 9x9, so I just do this one. And then third line, fourth line, third line, I just like my little combination. I feel like this is a very simple and nice and basic position. He played on the side. So here I actually had a couple options. I went for the open side, and that's perfectly fine. I could have also pushed first and then went for the side. I could play a knight's move to push, but I have to watch my cutting points. Cutting points. So maybe this isn't very basic, but it is technically possible. It's just you'd have to read out all the cutting points. But I just went for my basics and went for my open side, still following the same basics. The reason I didn't block right here is because if my opponent pushes, I can immediately block. And I'm fine. This cutting point, you do have to check though. So this is one thing that maybe I did a little fast this game, but I'm kind of just like showing more of the basics that we've talked about in the previous videos. But it's the same idea. So I want to consider, do I have to block or not? Because I want to play the big move if I can. If I don't have to defend my weakness, I want to play the big move. So I consider, okay, my opponent pushes and I block. So I know big move wise, that's the end of it. But of course, I have to check my cutting points. So I say, okay, my opponent can cut, right? But this is one of those shapes that you can, that you should kind of have the variations to, is these third line cuts. So there's 2 ways to handle this. The first and correct way is to Atari this way. Even though it's not to the edge, this leads to a ladder to the edge, which is perfect. So if you haven't learned the ladder is a very useful skill to know. But if basically a ladder is a series of Ataris. You Atari, 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 and you Atari to the edge. So this one's very nice. The other one, which is more common, because you can't always ladder, but the other one is this one. And he runs to the edge, and then you block, and he turns, because he doesn't want to go to the edge. There's nowhere to go to the edge. So he turns, and you turn, and you see how he has 2 liberties, and then you check your cutting points. So you have 2 liberties, so he cuts, and you run, and there's no ladder, there's no counter Atari. You get 3 this way, you get 3 that way. So no way for these 3 stones to survive. So that means the cut is A-okay. So we don't have to block. If you can't read all that and you blocked, that's also fine. And then after you have no cutting point or anything like that, then you can start pushing. That's also fine. It's not like you have to play perfect at this level. It's just understanding the basics of what you're looking for, which is open corners, open sides, push the borders, block the borders, watch the cutting points. Okay, as long as you can do that, even if it's an imperfect way, as long as it is you're doing that, then you're doing the basics, and that's good enough. You don't have to play perfect at this level. It's no big deal. So here, I again look at the cutting point, but this is our magical shape, the tiger's mouth. We love the tiger's mouth because there is no cut. It's just the self-Atari. So we love our tiger's mouth shape. This doesn't affect this. It's the same sequence. And yeah, so I don't have to respond, so I can just start pushing the borders. Because no open corners, no open sides, so push the borders. Push. And he didn't block, so I pushed again. And then he pushed. I pushed here. Then I pushed again. And I just keep pushing. I'm in Atari, so I fix. Watching my cutting points, but it's a tiger's mouth, so still fine. Here, this one might be a little too advanced for this, but this is one we're going to learn soon, is how to slide. So first let me just back up and answer this question real quick. What is my goal with this series? The goal of this series is to teach the basics at the Q levels. I want to at least get to single digit Q, but depending on how it goes and how much time I have, I may go to like 5Q plus. But probably I won't be able to get past 3Q because at that point there's a lot of reading involved, and mostly the point of the series is to teach how to utilize the basics to get to what basics you're supposed to learn and how to utilize them at different levels. So I'll just go until like I run out of time or it gets too advanced and it gets too off topic of the basics and a lot of other stuff gets added on. That'll probably be where I stop the series, but hopefully this series will go well enough to give everyone like decent levels or decent understanding of the basics. All right, so let's talk about the slide a little bit. Why is this slide okay? Because with the third line, if you just walk, he blocks, and if you walk down, he can block. So these are fine moves for this level, and that's okay. But I wanted to get one line further just to give him a little bit less points. And the way I know I can do that is because a third line approaching a fourth line stone like this can slide under. You don't want to attach on the third line because this leads to a lot of cutting points. Okay, so attaching like that leads to cutting points. So our move is actually to slide under this fourth line stone. Now, the strength of it is it gets one line deeper to reduce. The weakness of it is a knight's move, so there is a cutting point that you have to read and check. Okay, so this one's okay because I can just Atari to the edge and he's trapped. It's one of our basic cutting point sequences. However, this one can also be tricky because if I Atari directly, he can Atari right here. And then when I take or I connect, he connects and he breaks into all of my points. So if you see this, then maybe you're like, oh, okay, it's not worth it. Just play here. That's fine. But I know that if he does this, I can make one exchange first, which is this Atari right here. He has to fix, and then I capture the cutting stone. This is why I said it may be a little bit above 25Q, but this is a shape that we're going to learn soon. So this is kind of like a sneak peek into the future. So I could do it, and then when he cuts, his stone has nowhere to go. It's just trapped against the edge. Just trapped against the edge, nowhere to go. If he goes here, just Atari to the edge. Just push it to the edge, nowhere to go. And that's why I knew it was okay. But if you're unsure, then don't worry about it. Just play your basic shapes, and that's fine. But sliding under the 4th line stone is a shape that we will learn soon, so I went ahead and did it and just showed it. But you could have played the other moves, and that would have been fine as well. Your goal isn't really to win. If it's a close game and you have territory and you lose, that's okay. That's not that big of a deal. You don't have to say I can't go to 13 by 13 because I'm not winning all my games. No, that's not what it is. It's, can you see cutting points? Are you checking the cutting points? You don't get caught off guard by cutting points. You don't miss Ataris, and you know how to push and block the borders. You know how to make an area in the opening and push and block the borders, and you watch those cutting points. If you can do that, you're ready for the 13 by 13. That's all we're doing this game. Just pushing and blocking the borders, watching your cutting points. This one I had to be careful about because I don't like activating my own cutting points, but I read it. If you're worried about it, and you just want to fix so that way you can reduce, that's okay. It's not perfect, but you're not supposed to play perfect at this level. So if you just fix so you can reduce, that's fine. But I knew I was fine because I saw that this one was a ladder and this one was pushed to the edge. So nothing was wrong. And I did mention this one because I know some people might try this one first and might not notice the ladder. So this one is our more common sequence, so a lot of people might just only read this one. And of course you have to check it as well. So like what if white cuts and we push? This stone only has 2 liberties, so we have to watch that. Like, oh, what if he turns? Well, I can block 3 liberties to 2 liberties. What if he squeezes? I take, he Ataris, I connect 3 liberties to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 liberties. There's nothing over here, so you're still okay. You're still okay. So if you were uncertain, then don't play this move. Like if you don't see those cutting points, or if you can't read those cutting points, then don't give yourself cutting points. And that's fine. You don't have to play perfect. You can just back off once and then go to make it, simpler and easier to handle. And that's fine. As long as you're noticing and trying to read the cutting points and you're not getting caught by surprise. What I don't want you to do is play this one and then this one and then this one and you die. That's not good. If you're not noticing your cutting points as they're happening, then that's not good. You want to be able to notice the cutting points. You don't want to get caught off guard. So as long as you can see that, just notice the cutting points and you just fix before you leap. Even if it's not perfect, it's okay at this level. Just learn how to play the opening, just make some points, push and block the borders, watch those cutting points. That is all it is at this level. All right, so we're going to play one more at this level, and then looks like depending on how long the next one takes, we might have a little bit of time to introduce the 13 by 13, but we're not going to play the 13 by 13 today. All right, so I'm going to play, and we're going to start another